Good morning. I just wanted to take a minute to remember something that happened on April 20th, 2001. Um, there was a massive protest in Quebec City. They were protesting the expansion of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, that made free borders between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. They wanted to expand that to include South America as well. A group of people that were into music from my college all went, and I kind of tagged on at the last minute. I pulled this poster off of a telephone pole that someone had put up to advertise the protest. This was just before, it's April in 2001, so it's before September 11th happened. I couldn't help but think that it was somehow related when September 11th happened, at a time when I was taking international politics, and that was a major shaping experience for me. So I have a few photographs that I just found and I wanted to share from Quebec City. So, and I'll explain too as I put these in the order that I want to share them. This is important to my family because my family was a Kodak family. And my grandfather became rich in the 70s from Kodak. And they, when all the factories moved to Mexico in order to remain profitable, that affected our family because, well, although Grandpa had already retired as a vice president of quality control for all of Eastman Kodak Company, it was still massive layoffs that happened. They probably laid off a total of maybe 50,000 people in my city. So, when I got to Quebec, I didn't have any money, and apparently my debit card didn't work in Canada. So my family had to wire me money. It was such a relief to get to the Western Union. That didn't happen until the trip was almost half over. So, I don't know, here's kind of a cool picture. What they did was all the leaders in North and South America, except for Cuba, they excluded Cuba because it's communist, met in Quebec City. And to keep the protesters out, they built a massive wall around the center of the city, which of course is the top of a hill. And that way that the leaders would feel safe. This poem's kind of cool. April 2001, the little boy from Shangawan is meeting in Quebec with Uncle Sam's gang and his Latino friends looking gaucho to talk business and manage a big rodeo. On that occasion, enclosing walls and paddocks are erected in order to control the flocks flowing from everywhere in America, whose growing number is creating paranoia. By thousands, and at the RCMP's request, guardians will watch over these guests, especially the cattle breeders looking so nice, who will fix in private the retail beef's price. We're talking about McDonald's, all right? We're talking about big, big business. Because they're cutting down the rainforest in South America to make room for cattle, to kill the cows and make food and ship it all over cheap beef. Let us hope the shocking fever's action of this frantic globalization doesn't spread on the flocks so affected by the famines of the last decade. I don't even know famines. Well, I know there was famine in Mexico because people couldn't afford food because America's globalized farms had made food so cheaply that it was less expensive for the farmers to buy food that was, the farmers in Mexico, to buy food that was made in the United States. It was grown in the U.S. It was cheaper to buy it from the U.S. than it was to grow it themselves. And so when NAFTA happened, all the people had to leave their farms and get jobs to be able to have enough money to buy food, which logically didn't make sense. But because of the order that things were presented in the globalization, that is what happened. People don't realize that in America, in the United States, I should say, because they were mostly concerned about the cost of goods being less expensive because they thought that people could buy more and have more here, and they forgot about the empathy of the situation. So here's me right here, and this girl from college, and she was someone we met up with that knew the area really well. She's from Toronto, and they were friends. Anyway, you can see we wrote the phone numbers of our lawyers all over our arms, and, you know, it was a day. So here's we were marching down the center of the highway. It was kind of surreal. They shut off the whole highway, and then the march went along. Oh, here's cool. This is the fence. Some feminists. Speaking truth is a revolutionary act. In a time of universal deceit, speaking truth is a revolutionary act. Yeah, and the feminists tied their bras to the fence. It was kind of, it made us look. Speak truth to power. You can see my picture's overexposed. I didn't have digital camera yet. So there was this van that was giving out vegan food to anyone who wanted it. It was really very, very delicious because I didn't have money for half my trip, so I couldn't really buy things. I was very thankful to have some lentils on a plate. So after we marched down the highway, we went up to the top of the hill, and they made a big circle. They were trying to make the circle go all the way around the fence. This was the very start of the circle. The Lorax started it, and it was a drum circle. So they were trying to go all the way around the fence, and we were chanting peace, love, happiness, freedom, solidarity.
Wait, the Lorax is real?
No, it was a guy in a costume, honey.
Okay.
And then apparently that scared people, so they sent in the riot police. They were in full riot gear with bully clubs, guns, and tear gas. And they came marching at us like they were military. It was really scary. And they did tear gas us. They didn't like our chanting. And so everyone ran back down the hill. So a few months after that, September 11th happened, and everyone kind of stopped worrying about the expansion of the free trade agreement. Also, because Wall Street and the World Trade Centers are in New York State, that had a massive impact on state education budgets. George Bush also did some really weird things in education with the No Child Left Behind Act, which started kind of this ball rolling towards standardized education, which I feel is a major, major detriment to the United States, because every kid needs to know something a little bit different for success in their lives. And if everyone knows only the same thing, then what is that setting us up for? Anyway, April 20th, 2001, protest the expansion of free trade in Quebec City, remembering.